Welcome to the Feisty Women's Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Sara Gross, Ironman champion, PhD in women's history, and founder and CEO of Feisty Media. I started this show because I wanted to cut through the BS of diet culture and fitness culture and actually learn from high-achieving women at the top of their game who have figured out how to feel and perform their best at every stage of life. So I chat with experts, elite athletes, and leaders who have learned to succeed despite the massive gender data gap in exercise and medical science and product development. Every episode is filled with information, advice, and anecdotes that will help you fulfill your potential as an athlete, mom, leader, or business owner. And listen up. If you don't subscribe to our Women's Performance newsletter, you are definitely missing out. It's totally free. So head over to womensperformance.com and subscribe now. That's womensperformance.com. This podcast is a production of Feisty Media. Today, Feisty friends, I am talking to two women who are changing the face of women's cycling. As many of you know, the second annual Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift took place last week. It is an 8-day stage race that has rapidly become the biggest stage race in women's cycling history. And the history of women's racing in various forms of a Tour de France or a Tour de France equivalent has been pretty tumultuous, to say the least. Over the years, these races struggled with financial difficulties, limited media coverage, blatant sexism, and trademark issues with the organizers of the Tour de France. It has been, I cannot understate how hard it has been for women to get a race equivalent to the Tour de France. So there was a one-off event in 1955, and then an equivalent race to the Tour de France for women was held under a variety of different names between 1984 and 2009. So the race was called Tour de France Féminine, Tour of the EEC Women, Tour Cycliste Féminine, and Grand Boucle Féminine Internationale. You can see how it's pretty hard to build a brand and an audience when your name keeps changing and the organizers of the equivalent men's race want nothing to do with you. Then, about 10 years ago, my dear friend Catherine Bertine and a group of professional athletes put out a petition on change.org, and 100,000 people very quickly signed. And that got the attention of the race organizers, and a one-day race, La Course by the Tour de France, was held between 2014 and 2021. So, you hear that? It was just one day. And then finally, in 2022, the Tour de France Femmes staged its first edition with the support of Zwift as a title sponsor. So my first guest today is the woman who is often credited for making the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift happen, though she would never say that herself, Kate Veronneau. She is the director of women's strategy at Zwift. When I talked to Kate last week, she was actually in France and shared all the behind-the-scenes details about the excitement on the ground. Kate and I talk about the business case for a company like Zwift to invest in something like the Tour de France Femmes and how it helped them hit the wave of popularity that we are now seeing in women's sports. Hey, hi, you are in France right now for the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. First of all, this is what I want to know. What is the vibe like over there?
Oh my God, it's so next level. It is like, I was like everybody, I was like, can we top last year? You know, the inaugural Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Like, what's it going to be like? Is like, you know, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Like the courses are lined with fans. The starts and finishes are mobbed. There is just this like feeling in the air, like teams showing up with like new bikes and new kits just for the race. It's electric.
Cool. And so is it topping last year?
Yeah, so far, I mean, honestly, just based on the course, we will not have audience figures for a little while, but based on the course, it has been off the hook. Yeah, I'm absolutely, like, I'm pretty certain that we're gonna we're going to exceed last year's audience on course and on broadcast.
Amazing. Have you ever been to the men's race? Funny question, but have you ever?
Fun fact,
Uh-huh.
previous to Zwift, my job was a marketing director of a bike tour company that was the
Oh.
VIP tour operator to the men's tour, Thompson Bike Tours. So I literally took people to see the men's tour for like 5 years.
Right. So, like I just, I'd love to hear because I've seen the men's tour, right? So just try to imagine this in my mind. Or I've been, at the end of a stage, staying in a town where there's like an end stage and a beginning stage on the men's tour. But just wondering, like, are there any differences? Like, does the fanfare still come through? Do they throw free swag to people? Like, are there differences between what's happening with the women's race and all the extra stuff, and are there ways in which like the women's fans are different or better somehow?
I love this question. That's a great question. So the first stage started in Clermont-Ferrand, which is a kind of iconic tour town. And the men's tour had like their one of their stages there, maybe like 11 or 12 or something. So you could compare like the town itself knows, what it looked like for when the men's tour came through and what it looked like for the women's tour. And I was lucky enough to be invited by the mayor to a reception the night after the women's start in Clermont-Ferrand. And they did such a great presentation and everything, and the whole chatter amongst everybody there, which was a local crowd, was that it was just as big as the men's tour coming through, and that's the fans that came out, the feeling on the streets, like it's Tour de France, and that was fabulous to hear.
Yeah, that is amazing. And have you personally seen like any moments in the bike racing itself? Like you've seen 5 stages, right? Did I do the
Yeah,
math?
so we just finished stage 5 today.
Yeah. Have you seen any like moments, any crashes or any breakaways, or is there anything that's standing out for you so far?
Oh yeah, well, we had a horrifying crash on stage 2, and luckily the rider is okay. She kind of
Mm.
went under a guardrail. It was slippery conditions and some like light rain, but she is okay. She had a concussion, but she's okay. And it was a bit scary. She got like knocked out. Um, there has been some really brazen attacks. Yesterday we had a 10-minute break that we're like, well, that's gone, and then slowly reeled in, and some incredible moves, and then a breakthrough performance with Yara Castellan from a smaller team, Phoenix Akunik, taking the win.
Mm-hmm.
Today, another crazy breakout performance from Ricardo Bauernfeld from Canyon Strand Racing, 22, 23 years old, and just smashed it, surprised the field by getting away on a stage that probably should have been won by a sprinter. It's been thrilling. There's been a lot of drama. There's a big fine today. I think there's like a 20-second penalty on Demi Vollering, one of the race favorites. So this race has not been without all the drama that the tour brings to town.
Yeah, and I think, and I did it, right? Like we want to compare it to the men's race because we want it to be as big or even bigger and exciting or whatever. But, if we look at, for example, tennis, that's had years and years and years of equal prize money around the world at all their tours, like sometimes the women's race ends up with its own feeling, its own vibe might not be the right word,
Yeah,
but its own skill set, and I've kind of heard that in year 2, like we're seeing that, like, because the race is a bit shorter, maybe the athletes aren't worried about being like, they're not worried about being tired in 20 days, right?
yeah.
Like that there's more exciting racing. Are there things that you notice that are like kind of rising up that are a little bit different about the women's racing?
Absolutely. And it's what I really like about it, because this is an opportunity to like bring new fans into the sport. Different style like of attacks and like very aggressive racing, because it's only 8 days. Each day is super intense, so it's really like can't miss a minute kind of racing. Um, in general, the fans that are on course too are here. Like there's a passion, they're here just for the women. There's like a feel in the air where it's like the men's tour, it's sort of like what you do because it's been going on for so long, but there's like sort of this dedicated effort of the fans to attend, the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, and to see, the women's pro peloton. So that's really exciting. And there's just, I think these are some of the biggest advocates for women's cycling are here at the race from from the industry as well. So there's a lot of passion and enthusiasm on the ground. It definitely has a different feel, and it's not like the men's tour. Honestly, the stages are a little bit shorter, punchier. Um, it's, I think the cast of characters honestly is a little bit more exciting because we're not talking about two guys that duking it out for a whole
Right.
race.
Yeah.
It's like any day, almost anything can happen. And we're not quite sure what the GC contenders, like it kind of feels like the GC battle hasn't really started yet. So there's just been so much great action. It's a different beast, and I kind of love it. And it has a lot of different characteristics and a lot of different characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, behind the scenes, I know we've told this story elsewhere, but, just for this podcast audience, like I would love to know the story of how Zwift became the title sponsor of the Tour de France Femmes. And if when this idea came to, I know that there's been women's races in the Tour de France that have, there was one in the 80s, we had Catherine Bertin, single day, one that eventually, there's been various iterations, right? So when this tour started last year, was it, if not for Zwift, there would not be a tour? How did that happen? Or were they planning the tour and then you came along and said, yes, we'll be the title sponsor? Or what was going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah, the stars definitely aligned. So this is actually one of the only positive things to come out of COVID, besides more outdoor seating at restaurants. um, yeah, so when COVID hit in 2020 and all the pros were also indoors and racing was paused, the leadership at ASO and leadership at Zwift got together and said, let's host a virtual Tour de France, exhibition race on the platform. A lot of the pros were already using Zwift. It's awesome. We can do this. We're going to broadcast it because the cycling media is hungry for content too. So people are going to watch this, especially if we get the biggest names in cycling to race. And we're like, this is great. Let's do it. But if it's on Zwift, it's by Zwift rules, which is always complete parity in racing, equal prize purse, equal broadcast, equal opportunity, equal distances, always across the board since our inception. And so they were like, cool, all right, yeah. So we did a 6-day virtual Tour de France, and we even built a French World in France. This was a monumental effort on our part, honestly, and it was really fun. It was broadcast in 180 countries. And because the women racers actually had been using the platform more, they had been racing on Zwift because there had been some really good opportunities for pro racing on Zwift. And they were a little bit better at it. And they also, the shorter distances on Zwift suited their tactics and their race style. So the women's racing was actually a little bit more exciting than the men's racing in those 6 stages. And also what we did was we switched the broadcast every day, where one day the men would go first and one day the women would go first. And we saw that audiences wanted to watch both, and it really didn't affect. So it was great.
Also, you had those numbers and stuff.
It proved that hey, people want to see this. And the biggest headlines were from the women's racing at the virtual Tour de France. So it really kicked off this conversation with ASO and Zwift of what's it going to take to make this happen? It's cool that we had this virtual version. Let's use this as proof of concept. Audiences are ready for this. The Women's World Tour, the Women's Pro Peloton is ready for this. What's it going to take? And that's what it takes is Zwift coming on board as a title sponsor, for 4 years and saying that we're going to get behind this in the big way. It's ASO saying we're going to put a brand name in the name of the Tour de France. So clearly it was something where we were both all in to make this happen.
And was there any pushback that now that we've seen the success of these 2 years, or that we're seeing it in the second year, that you're haha, told you it would be
God.
great?
I think everybody I know in that has covered women's cycling and been a part of women's cycling, we're all looking at each other and being right? This is great. Yes, we've known for years that the personalities, the action, they're all there. It just needs that visibility. And now that the world has had the opportunity to watch, more sponsors are wanting to get on board. More fans are wanting to follow the athletes. The value of the sport is going up. And it's pumping more money into the sport. It's creating more opportunity, bigger salaries, with more sponsors coming to the table, because it's sort of this, you want to be a part of this. This is what, this has become the second biggest race in cycling.
Hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I'd love to know too, like for Zwift as a company, like have there been, because you made this major investment in women's racing, what has been the positive, like ROI? I want to say ROI, but I don't just mean like dollars, money, but what has been like on every level, like the ROI for that investment?
Yeah. Because it's going to be a longer play in terms of like, wow, our, subscriptions went up this much, especially
Right.
in women's markets, but we are seeing, already, those numbers go up. But the bigger part is that we are putting our money where our mouth is. We've always said that we want to grow and elevate women's cycling. We did Zwift Academy, created a new pathway to the pros with Canyon SRAM Racing.
Mhm.
We've had equality and UCI Esports World Championships and all other racing on Zwift.
Mhm.
But this was a way to like just go big and just say,
Yeah.
that there's nothing bigger than the Tour de France, and the women deserve this stage.
Mhm.
So for us, it feels great, honestly, as a company, because it's something that we have really believed in
Mhm.
since our start, our startup.
Yeah.
And to like be able to take that, it feels good too, because it's a great story and we can like stand behind it and say, hey, there was building blocks to this. And now we're doing this. And now all we want is for that to inspire other brands to get behind
Yeah.
other races, other teams, development, grassroots, and just say, wow, women's cycling is a great space to play right now.
Yeah, I like what a time. I think this is an amazing time for any brand that could be involved in women's sports because, we can see that women's sports are broadly, not just cycling, like are at an inflection point. Like the wave is coming.
It's the
The Women's World
best.
Cup is like lighting the the world
Yeah.
on fire right now. And so like it's just such a great time, I think, from a branding exercise point of view, like to be associated with that, right? Do you feel that? Do folks in Zwift feel that?
Yeah, I've likened the momentum of women's sports to that giant boulder that's chasing Indiana Jones. That it's
Oh
like
yeah,
it's so big and
it is. Yeah.
it's going so fast, and it's like no stopping it. It's a great moment for women's sports, and we feel like a big part of that now. We've like this is one of the biggest moments of the summer. It's happening at the same time as World Cup, and it's sort of amplifying each other's the excitement for the Women's World Cup is being reflected also at the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. So yeah, it's definitely an inflection point.
Definitely. Yeah. And so for you, for this is my last question, and then I would let you. Is it 10 p.m. there?
Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
usually can't even. I get so excited. I can't get to bed
To
before like one.
sleep. I'm probably not helping. So,
No, I love it. I love it. This is
but
great.
I just want our audience to know the level of commitment to talk with us. For you personally, last year at the Ironman World Championships, we had for the first time we had like a women's only day on the Thursday, and the pro women for the first time had a fair race out the front of the race. A woman crossed the line first, and like that it just a lot of us were like it was goosebumps, we had shiver, like people I would turn to my left and right, people are crying. And as someone who like I was part of a group that kind of advocated for some of those changes over several years, and so like as someone who's like kind of in the process like you have been with this, like it was so emotional. Like how does it make you feel personally to have been part of kind of making this happen?
I honestly tear up like 2 to 3 times a day here. Um, it does feel like everything's changing, and uh, to even just walk through like the team buses and to see mobs of fans waiting to just catch a glimpse of Lada Kopecky or Kasia Niewedoma, or
Mhm.
it's thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling to see. Like I got to be in a race car yesterday and drive the whole course, in the middle of the race, and to see all the fans out and so many families and so many young kids, and to see little girls and little boys out there,
Yeah.
and knowing that this is now the Tour de France means women and men is like it does. Like it gives me goosebumps every day. It's totally changed. Like the support of the teams, like just how many vehicles they have, and they're like rolling out new bikes and kits for just this race. The recognition that they have so long deserved. It's incredible. It's like, and just the fans, they're so passionate, you know, it's like, they all just are so excited to be here to catch a glimpse. Like we're making superstars, and it's a dream job, honestly, to be any part of this is really a dream.
Yeah, I love it. I was a kid, like I was a little girl who really noticed that there weren't women, playing. There weren't, like, I was super into sports, and and that was heartbreaking and crushing for me, and like has become part of like my entire raison d'etre, like as an adult as well, you know? So just the fact, just all of these things that are happening in women's sports right now, it's incredible. It's blowing my mind. Yeah. And you made me tear up just now too, talking about that.
There's one other thing I'll say too, is that last year was so cool. Like it was the first, you know, and so there was so much attention around the first. But what the first did was like shine a big light on these athletes. And we've spent the last year now building these fans, and I've, you know, we've all been able to watch so much more women's cycling this past year. So now we're talking about each stage and the drama and the race tactics and the team dramas, and it's really like focusing on the actual action, just what great sport this is. And I love that as well, that it's like, okay, it's okay, yes, this is happening, but now it's just like, my God, let's talk about the play-by-play.
Yeah, it's like we need all those stories, you know, like we struggle with that too, with the way we're putting things out on Instagram, because we do need to talk about the fact that it's inspiring, you know, for kids, for girls, inspiring for me, you know, and then also talk about the fact that like there's good sport happening out there.
And the fact that those are happening together is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, Kate, thank you for everything you do and for everything Zwift has done, and enjoy the rest of the tour there in France. I'm so jealous.
I think you need to come out here next year.
I think so.
Yeah, it's really something special.
Yeah, I keep thinking like I may end up spending a quarter of the year in France next year, because we have the Tour de France Femmes, which I've been wanting to go to since last year. Yeah, and then we got the Olympic Games, and then we have the Ironman World Champs women's race is in Nice in September. So,
oh my gosh, Nice is supposed to be so awesome.
Nice is amazing.
Yeah, the men's is finishing there next year. I kind of want to check it out.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Nice is nice.
Nice is nice. Yeah, we already have like slogans like, we're not here to play nice.
I love it. Yeah. Oh, cool. I love everything you guys are doing. So keep up the great work. And and thanks for making the time for me this week.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you get to sleep.
I will. Thanks so much, Sarah. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Very exciting to talk to Kate, whose enthusiasm was palatable. I could see her on the screen, but I hope that it came through to you all as well. Honestly, seeing both of these women in their hotel rooms after a big day of watching the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, I could tell that I definitely want to be at this race one of these years. So my next guest is Cassondra Spring. She's the global brand manager at Liv Cycling. And for those who don't know, Liv, it's a brand that was born at Giant Bicycles when one of their executives could not find a bike that fit her. Cassondra tells this story during our chat and also shares her experiences of the tour, how you build a bike brand around women's needs, and her predictions for the final days of racing. Endurance sports should be accessible to everyone, right? That's why we are so excited to be partnering with Motive. Motive is one of the fastest growing training apps in the world today, with thousands of amateur athletes signing up every month and a nearly perfect 4.9 star rating in the App Store. You are not a template, and your training plan should not be either. Prepare for running races, triathlons, cycling events, duathlons, or swim runs, however your season schedule shapes up, and get training written by some of the best coaches in the world in each discipline who know what it takes to help amateur athletes reach their goal on race day. The app takes the training written by those experts and then creates the most optimal training plan for your schedule, abilities, and goals. Plus, the training is fully customized to your race schedule, how much you can train each week, your current abilities, and the goals you want to achieve in your race. You can use the app for free as long as you want, or get all the upgraded features from the app for just $19.99 a month. But as a Feisty listener, you can sign up at mymotive.com and use the code Feisty for 2 months of full premium access. That's right, you get 2 months of premium for free. So you quite literally have nothing to lose. So head over to mymotive.com, mymotiv.com, and use the code Feisty, Feisty. And on a personal note, I know the founder of Motive, and he is driven to make triathlon and all endurance sports more accessible for the athletes who care about their performance, but who aren't quite ready for a full-time personal coach. If that sounds like you, definitely try the app for 2 months for free. You literally have nothing to lose. As we head into summer, rest and recovery are critical for improving sports performance, reducing stress, and living a long and healthy life. We should all invest in better sleep. So, think about the thing you lay your head on for 8 hours a night. If it's not exactly right for you, it can lead to needless tossing and turning, or worse, have you waking up with an unrelenting kink in your neck. My new Lagoon pillow has helped me improve my sleep immensely by pairing me with the performance pillow that has everything I need. So I personally was matched with the Otter pillow. Shout out to Team Otter, which I love because it has a gentle cooling effect. And I was able to choose how much stuffing I wanted in it, which is super important to me because I'm doing a decent amount of CrossFit these days and my shoulders are kind of creaky. So having a pillow that is stuffed just to the right height keeps my neck and head in exactly the right position and comfortable for the entire night. And as of fall 2023, Lagoon launched their 100% mulberry silk pillowcases. It's cool to the touch, buttery soft, and great for your skin and hair. You've got to go check out this pillowcase if you want to feel great and look great every morning. Waking up for morning workouts has never felt better. I'm refreshed and pain-free thanks to my Lagoon pillow. To check it out for yourself, go to lagoonsleep.com/performance and take the 2-minute sleep quiz to find your perfect pillow match. And then use the code PERFORMANCE for 15% off your first purchase. That's code PERFORMANCE at lagoonsleep.com/performance, whole 15% off, and the link is in the show notes. You can just click through there. For decades, running shoes have been researched, tested, and designed for men. Brands have relied on the shrink it and pink it approach to sell male shoes to female customers. That's why we are so excited to be working with Hedas. Hedas designs athletic footwear for women that elevates performance, safety, and style. Hedas unlocks the science behind women's biomechanics through dedicated research, creates better shoes for women that support their longevity and performance, and establishes new design standards to promote transparency in a male-biased industry. Hedas have a lower ankle collar to reduce rubbing, a breathable mesh toe box to allow for ventilation and to allow for female toe shape, a special kind of plate in the midsole to keep tired legs going, a narrow heel cup to reduce heel slippage and take the pressure off our Achilles, and a rounded instep to create a snug fit. Hedas has 3 shoe models designed for different sessions: the Alma Cruise for long runs, the Alma Tempo for training days, and the Alma Speed for pushing the pace. I've personally been running in the Alma Cruz and I love them. It's the shoe I always wanted and never knew I needed. The fit is perfect in every way. You can get your own pair of Hedas at hedas.com and use the code Feisty20 for 20% off. That's Feisty20 at hedas.com, and it will all be in the show notes. Cassondra, hi, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. I'm doing well. I'm really happy to be with you right now.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of we talked just before the show. I talked to Kate Veronneau yesterday, and I'm like very jealous of folks who are on the ground there in France and get to watch the Tour de France Femmes live. But it sounds like you have a lot of different things going on, like you have things that you have to take care of over there. So like, what's the vibe like, first of all, on the ground?
Okay, the vibe is electrifying. There is passion.
Mm-hmm.
There is power. There's a lot of camaraderie. I'm really loving seeing more and more women, clearly with the racing, I mean, the femmes, right? But then, there's just in terms of media coverage, in terms of attendees, in terms of, other brand representatives, there's more women, and I really am loving that. But the fans are out. And one of the really thrilling aspects is seeing all of the families, and especially, I'll be honest, for me, it's that they're the girls, and just like all of the glassy eyes, as they watch the femme throughout each of the stages, like, it gets me. And it's really energizing, and it is truly electrifying.
Yeah, it gets me every time I think about this stuff where like those little girls have everything that I didn't, and I say this a lot, but like that was something that like 7-year-old me was heartbroken by the fact that I didn't see women playing sport on TV generally, except for the Olympic Games every 4 years. So like the idea just like that there are little girls who can go out, like little French girls could go out and watch the women come by just like they watch the men come by. It's it definitely gives me the shivers. Do you think the crowd, like the demographic of the crowd, is more female?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'd say family and female. I mean, it's generational. That's really cool too. So, but certainly there are, I guess I just take note of the girls, but I love seeing the generations. And I will also, because I know you mentioned the French girls, but it's amazing to me how many people travel to also be watching the femmes and to be participating in the Tour de France Femmes. That's pretty incredible, that, and they're like full on, we've seen it with RVs and the flags and just creating like a whole scene and vibe and really like spending the day and just like cheering the women on. It's really wonderful all throughout, like along the course.
Yeah, amazing. What have been your favorite moments of racing so far?
Okay, first of all, I'm moving quite a bit throughout the day. And, to be honest, I'm seeing bits and pieces on a monitor sometimes. I'm listening in to Peacock coverage for, final bits of the race when that's on. But one thing I'm really loving and appreciating, I have been at the finish quite often, and I'm loving the nail bite finishes. And of course, some of the breakthrough rides, really including powerful performances and, kind of just the breakaways by younger riders. And less familiar riders. Like, to me, this is really phenomenal. Of course, I'm a fan of the women in general, and there's some very known and highly regarded and just like winning athletes out there. But hearing some of the new names we had, Ricarda Bernstein yesterday from Canyon SRAM, 23 years old and the youngest stage winner in history. That's pretty cool, pretty special.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I'm very curious, and like, just so our listeners know, like, there's no financial relationship between Liv and Feisty or Zwift and Feisty, but I'm very curious about like these brands that just completely got behind any part of women's sports, right? In this case, the Tour de France Femmes, avec Zwift, right? Like, what, and Liv as a brand, it's just like synonymous now with women's cycling, Right. And I remember going back years, like I was a professional triathlete. I remember the big debate about like, do we really need female specific bikes? And everyone was like, this or that, but Liv really stuck with that, like, okay, yes, we might have smaller hands and we might need like shorter cranks or what are the things about like what has developing that women's brand done for Liv, like as a brand?
Well, I'll just kind of go back for those that don't know. I mean, Bonnie too, who is the chairperson of Giant Group, at the time, she was chief financial officer in the company. And age 57, she got back into cycling. And she was like, hold on. I'm an executive in this bike company and I can't find adequate gear or bikes that suit me. And so she really was like, she's the founder of Liv and then champion at Liv. And, she's like, since our beginning, and now, it's been years, we have continued to evolve. We've continued to grow. We continue to put women first in everything that we do. We invest all of our resources into supporting women and creating more opportunities in the sport of cycling. And so that has been an ongoing theme for us. When it comes to our products, we design bikes and gear that optimize fit, performance, and fun. Women's data informs our prototypes, but just as important are women's perspectives. And that's informing everything. Our bikes are tested. They're refined by some, very discerning elite athletes, women athletes in the world, some of the most. And we're the only women's brand also that makes, our bicycles in-house. So, but I think what really shines through is just like our commitment, and that's to expanding opportunities. And, that's where we get into, supporting and investing in events like the Tour de France Femmes. This is when we caught word that it was being planned, my predecessor in this role, and certainly with the support of the executives, was very adamant, like, we need to talk to them. And, you may already know this, but Liv, throughout its history of the Tour de France, if we include the men, so of course that goes back quite a bit longer, Liv is the only bike brand that's been aligned. And that was because they really saw how our values were so well aligned between Liv and the vision for the Tour de France Femmes. So pretty proud of that. We are, event sponsors or event partners, and we're white jersey sponsors.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice. And in what ways have you developed, or like, have you worked on developing that women's brand Liv differently than you would if you were working on a brand that was like for everybody, or a men's brand? Like, are there things that you do as global brand manager that might be different because your audience is women?
Well, I guess, I think it's hard for me to compare, but at Liv, we really, again, we're putting women first. We have that opportunity to put women first in everything that we do. Mm-hmm. So we're passionate riders ourselves. And women are really our first thought. We were thinking about our needs. We understand that, this is a very, enviable position to be in, personally, I think. And, of course, there's challenges of industry norms and standards that really are questioning why. And, I think Bonnie too, I love her, and I take inspiration from her. She's like, why not? Like, why not? But we're just a team of leaders, and we're looking for ways to listen, to amplify, to elevate, and really celebrate women during every turn of their cycling journey. So, yeah, I guess in my role, I'm fortunate to be surrounded by really passionate and performance-driven collaborators at Liv. Mm-hmm. And we definitely do work collaboratively. I mean, I can go into details of the global team. It's a small team, and then we work with sales companies around the world. And but there really is, there's women that are in leading roles and really guiding decisions and shaping the brands.
Yeah. When I first started cycling, I had trouble. I had so much saddle discomfort. This is like in the 90s. I had so much saddle discomfort. And it's amazing to me, like, in order to find a saddle that fit me, like I was living in Europe at the time. I was on the phone with someone from Terry Saddles. Do you remember this brand? Because they were the first brand to make the cutout, right? Like how far we've come from me being like, having to go into a bike store and go, I think I'm sitting on like a really sensitive part of my body and it hurts me and I don't know what to do. And them going, we don't know what to do. And me having to call the actual manufacturers of the saddle to figure out what. And then they said they had one of their pro women call me to help me figure out a saddle. And I was just like an everyday rider, and like how far we've come now. That like, and I think that's largely, I feel like Liv just straight up committed to that, like to doing that research and development on the, like making sure that women had what they needed. Am I right about that?
I think there's that. There has been a lot of advocacy. I mean, we work with, our partners that are creating components, that those touch points are really important. And I know that there's been significant campaigning to, get different sizing opportunity that has happened as well. And so, yeah, I think that advocacy and I thank you too, for being an athlete that was asking for more. We've deserved more. And I think that, there a lot of inroads have been made. And yet still, when you think about the retail experience, it can still be really awkward. It can still be really uncomfortable. And you can still, gather information online or come in with some information, but still not have a great selection on the floor. I mean, that's something that we're still encounter, right? And not only that, but not a really, again, I think that there are definitely improvements, but there's still a lot of situations where you come in at retail and maybe you just don't find that super helpful person. And so that's something we think about, how can we be a resource, not only in the retail spaces, but also online, in our content that we're creating all of the time. How can we provide, kind of information if you're experiencing pain when you're riding, with your on your saddle, like writing a story about that and talking about that and opening that up so that, just demystifying some of those challenging experiences that you might encounter as a newer cyclist or even a very experienced cyclist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm very into creating like the business case for investing in women's sports, just broadly, right? Like anything we can do to give people information to say, hey, you know what, like women actually are consumers. Like we want to do sport. We want to, has there been kind of a positive ROI, if you will, on focusing on women?
I mean, we believe, yeah. I mean, first of all, it's like, I've been seeing, it's probably from pull quotes from Feisty to be honest. It is the right thing to do. I think that was one that I said, I'm like, yes, it is. It is. It's not only the right thing to do, but it does make good business sense. And we do think about, women as, controlling purchasing decisions. That's obviously a thing that we know through research. And also let's just think about like it from a perspective of inclusivity. The reality, if I focus on the cycling industry and like, who has it been serving? And even in terms of representation, like who have we seen in the past? And if we really open that up there, it's just like that pie, we think about like, there's so many people there, but they really need to see themselves. They really need to feel welcomed. And so at some level, that's what we get to do at Liv, or that's we get to think about that. And specifically, by putting women first, that's who we're, focused on right now. But I do think there's still a lot of opportunity just in terms of inclusivity. And, if we think about the business case and all of the people that could be served, and I'm not just even talking about cycling now, right? Like really outside of cycling. The truth is there's an amazing momentum and an interest, I think, upswell in women's sports. And I love that. And I do think that, these broadcast opportunities are changing the game as well. It's like, oh, we have the opportunity to to see the women, like that is huge. That's so important. We think about even, places like the Sports Bra in Portland or Rough and Tumble in Seattle that are dedicated to showing women's sports. And guess what? It's winning. Like they're full all of the time. And there's people that are actually traveling to those locations just to watch women's sports. So I think that is, the business case is definitely there. It's being demonstrated. A strong interest is being demonstrated. And then I also will just kind of step outside of cycling again. But last year had the opportunity to go to the Angel City Football Club. And and wow, I mean, full stadium, sold out. And then the merch, right? The merch is just like, and of course, it's just like for me, I love it. I love to be a part of it. And so again, I think these are all just proof points. And I think you can really look, across the board and see that growing interest. The other thing that I think is really powerful, and it's been coming up a little bit this week, but just think about, again, I start with cyclists and athletes, but look at their communities and the growth of their communities, and look at the voice that they now have with, social media, and even being on podcasts like yours, and just like the audience. And look, if we just even look at those numbers, right? And that's a direct line. And this is something that we didn't have a generation ago. We can say for sure it was all through a different lens. It was all through different storytellers. And now it's like we get to tell our own stories, and we get to have other women and other perspectives kind of share stories. And that really is like, that we're never going to go back, right? We're never going back.
Yeah, it would be hard to go back in the box now, and it's like, and just like you were talking about sport broadly, but I think what we're seeing too is that before there was a lot of the argument that like investing in women's sports or showing more women's sports on TV or however you want to frame that was the right thing to do, like you said, and it is, right? But now we're kind of in that moment of like, oh, holy crap, this is really good sport. Like, and I mean, we're in that moment, like you and I probably always knew that, but like the world more broadly is suddenly seeing like, oh, wait a second, the women, like what, the women can play soccer too? They can ride bikes. Oh my God. And that to me is like, creates a massive turning point.
Yeah, I'm loving this summer of women's sports. I mean, between the now, right? It's just like, oh yeah, it's on. And I think that it's wonderful. It's wonderful that there is a growing awareness too.
Yeah. Am I right that Liv has been hosting watch parties?
Yes.
Do I have that right? Okay. Like, I hope I remember that correctly. Tell us about that. How can we go?
Yeah. So, okay. Last year, as we have all, kind of shared and heard, it was like a really phenomenal response, like exceeded everybody's expectations in terms of viewership, in terms of attendance. When we look at those numbers, I mean, the Western European countries are glued. It's just a thing, right? As I actually, one of my colleagues said, it's like the Tour de France is kind of a religion in Western European countries.
Yes. Yes.
In North America, I was really surprised because there were some people that are like, wait, there's a Tour de France Femme. Like there was still some lack of awareness. And so for us, we were like, okay, what if we really intentionally organize watch parties? And, we also understand that there's a paywall involved for many people in North America. So let's remove that barrier and let's create an inviting environment and a sense of community and get people together to watch the Femmes. And we have upwards of 40 retailers in the US that were hosting events. There's people, just communities that are hosting this. Last night, I know there was one in Oregon that some friends organized, and I think there was it maybe reached 100 people there at one event, right? And
yeah, that's amazing.
Even in Japan and in Germany, we're seeing these watch parties. And again, it's not only that moment to really get more people engaged with the Tour de France Femmes. It's also like creating more connections and community around the sport of cycling. And for us, we just see tremendous impact there. So that's been a real delight this year to see that catch fire. And now already, we're 6 stages in. Oh, I can't believe it. But we already are having, our colleagues and our retailers and press world like, next year, even more, like we're going to do this even better next year. And so I love that, they're just seeing the power of it as well. There's magic when women come together. So
there is. I would host a watch party next year.
Just
plant that seed right there. I'm kind of jealous. So like, how can I attend one of these things? So yeah, like you say, we're 6 stages in already. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the week?
I mean, my heart is in the mountains. It always has been. Stage 7, Tourmalet was always like kind of like the stage that I've been excited for. As I said, every day and every stage has been exciting, but now it really is like it's all leading up. It's a very it's going to be a consequential stage, like it is big. Tomorrow is like a very, very big day, and I cannot wait. I've been like, it's one of those things where I really want to be present, and also it's also like the night before Christmas for many of us. We're like, okay, because you're in the mountains and just, there's so much focus, and we know across the teams, there's a lot of deliberate plans that have been, in the making for tomorrow. And so here we go.
Well, do you think we're going to see a shakeup in the leaderboard?
I do.
Yeah. Oh. Very exciting. Amazing. I think that's one of the advantages of like the shorter quote unquote race, like that. It's funny to call an 8-day stage race a short race, but like a shorter race that it remains exciting through all the stages. You know what I mean? And there's like, there's not a winner till there's a winner.
Yeah, that's something that Kate Veronneau and I, and we've talked about, like this format is really a good one for audiences. And I mean, it just is. I think it's a great, although I have to say, like, even though it's very, very big at the end, after stage 8, you're like, oh, it's over already. But I don't think the athletes feel that way. I think it is very engaging, and there's just so much going on through each stage that, yeah, it's like a nonstop, wonderful, wonderful ride.
Amazing. Well, I hope you enjoy the next couple days, and thank you for joining us and for sharing the enthusiasm. I feel like the energy is palatable, right now, and I'm so happy to be able to share that with our audience. So thanks, Cassondra.
Thank you. Such a joy to be here.
Building muscle can be tough, and gains can be so slow, even for those of us who do a lot of strength training. As an ex-endurance athlete who is now in perimenopause, I know this all too well. It can be frustrating to put in the time in the gym and not see the results I'm looking for. That's why it's super important to take the right supplements at the right time. One of those supplements is essential amino acids, which are needed to trigger muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis happens when you eat high-quality protein, like eggs or whey. And by supplementing with additional essential amino acids, you can make sure you are getting the full benefit of your training sessions. Targeted essential amino acid formulas can be up to 4 times more effective than just eating protein. I've been taking amino acids for almost a year, and in combination with eating quality protein and a couple other supplements, I have managed to turn the tides on age-related muscle loss, which starts at 30 for women, by the way, and I have continued to make strength gains as I head towards 50. AminoCo has been a long-time sponsor of Feisty Media and has supported all of our brands and podcasts over the years. I recommend starting with AminoCo Perform, and you can grab some at aminoco.com/performance. If you enter the code PERFORMANCE, you will save 30% and receive a free gift if it is your first purchase. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. That's aminoco.com/performance and use the code performance to save 30%. As a lifelong runner and triathlete turned CrossFitter, I am stoked to announce that the athletic eyewear brand Tifosi Optics has joined us as a partner here at Feisty Media. Tifosi sports glasses hit all the marks for athletes. They're shatterproof polybicarbonate, so the lenses not only reduce glare, but also offer scratch resistance, which I 100% need. They stay in place when you are moving. The hydrophilic rubber nose pads actually get more grippy the more you sweat, so they are secure and don't slide down your face even when you're running in hot conditions. No matter what sport you do, Tifosi has shades for you. Whether you love tennis, fishing, pickleball, running, cycling, or just hanging out on the beach. They are super reasonably priced, which I love, so I can have multiple pairs that go with any outfit. And of course, Feisty listeners get a special discount. So head on over to tifosioptics.com and use the code FM20. FM as in Feisty Media to get 20% off your order. That's FM20 at tifosioptics.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to make it easy for you.